So let's turn to Fitzgerald. It's one of the neighborhoods that Detroit Public Television is taking a closer look at in an effort to understand the biggest issues and concerns on the minds of people who live in the area. The Fitzgerald Revitalization Project is also a big part of a city initiative to restore the historic neighborhood, focusing on housing and green space, and possibly using it as a model for other areas in the city.
The out-of-towners roll north on the Lodge. A tour hosted by City Lab, part of their national convention last fall.
We're heading out to Northwest Detroit to an area where we began as the city, one of our first comprehensive neighborhood planning processes since the Duggan administration really began.
Their destination, the Fitzgerald neighborhood. It made headlines 2 years ago when Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan announced it would be getting an extreme makeover.
So we really started by working with residents to start to figure out, what are some of the challenges, what are the needs, what are you guys doing, where can we help, and how do we as the city find some more ways to take on and manage this land, because essentially it is non-tax revenue producing property that we now own and need to try and keep up with the maintenance of, which is really a losing proposition on our end. If you make a right here.
Tours like this are common in Fitzgerald. The group hits the commercial corridor on 6 Mile, McNichols near Livernois.
We'll also be adding street trees, of which you can see there are none.
Have you heard of Fitzgerald before?
Well, yes, I had seen. I'm a city planner, and I had read about the Fitzgerald neighborhood and what the planning director was proposing and what he had been working on.
A tour highlight, Ella Fitzgerald Park. Vacant land where houses once stood transformed into a playground, the starting point for a model of revitalization.
So this is the park on this side, and this is where that greenway will go through, punching that way.
I think the mayor is incredibly impressive, and I have met with the planning director, and he understands the DNA of a neighborhood and how to build on the community to make it better, from both public space improvements and housing.
So New York went through, obviously, a period of decline and has seen an incredible resurgence and has produced, frankly, a lot of inequality and things that have really changed the city in ways I think a lot of people aren't happy about. I think the potential here is that it's still early enough in the process that hopefully some of the ways that they're doing development, the ways that they're talking about the changes in the city could have a different path than what happened in New York.
It shows this home right here. You see that? If you can see it, I guarantee you will not recognize it today because of the rehab commitment that the developers decided to do for this community.
So the developer will be doing these in phases.
I see a lot of sincerity to what they're trying to do and some good things happening.
Is the city subsidizing the difference in the construction cost to what that value would be based off income?
The challenge, though, it's a layered set of challenges that come back to me, racism, classism, some systemic things that are going to take a long, long time to deal with.
When the Fitzgerald Revitalization Project started, the developer, Century Partners, announced they would rehab and sell 100 vacant homes by 2019. Last summer, as Ella Fitzgerald Park opened, the talk was that all of those rehabs would still come online, but with completion pushed back a year to 2020.
We know we got a ways to go. We got new street surface, new sidewalks, but you don't have to look too far to see we got to work our way down the street now that we got the park rebuilt, to get these houses rebuilt, to move families back in, but it's going to be a whole lot easier.
So far, 3 homes have been finished and sold. Century Partners telling One Detroit 7 more should be ready this spring.
And if we step down just a couple steps.
On the west edge of Fitzgerald, Lola Holton worries they're losing valuable housing stock. She's lived here for 45 years.
This does not make any sense. This house that's all, look, like you can almost blow it down. Look, the front door wide open now. That must have just happened. This neighborhood deteriorated in a matter of 5 years. I mean, it went from, riches to rags.
Holton spoke with other Fitzgerald stakeholders at the University of Detroit Mercy in January. It was a meeting organized by CDAD, Community Development Advocates of Detroit, and Detroit Public Television, as part of an initiative to hold community conversations to further neighborhood participation and solutions to problems.
Our challenge is renters don't stay long. And so what you thought you've accomplished over 6 months, now you go back and the house is empty.
I think you have multiple cultures that exist in Fitzgerald. You do have sort of the culture that's been described that people have been there for decades. They own their house, they care about their house. Their house is very nice. The neighbors around them, some of them, the culture is a culture of poverty. There's a lack of resources and a lot of short-term thinking.
We can talk about all this all day, we can make streets of gold, but if a person can't read in 2019 at a functional level, and we got 49%, and the next generations are becoming just as bad.
So this is UD right here.
The developers with Century Partners say it's been a challenge finding people equipped to do the work. They've taken on their own workforce development project, training 45 people to clean out and paint homes, do lawn maintenance, shovel snow, and provide security.
You know, if you look what happened downtown, they overspent in the beginning to get a place like downtown moving. I don't see how in a place like Fitzgerald that's been systematically disinvested for decades, how you don't employ a similar philosophy where you get real, true resources in scale, in mass, into the hands of the people who live here, into the businesses. I don't see the resources.
I think if we can organize together, then we can really speak with one voice to hold the city accountable for what they said they were going to do.
We knew going in that for a neighborhood like Fitzgerald to be significantly transformed, that the only way you could do it was via time and gradual process or transformative massive investment. Again, if you look at downtown, it's not a coincidence that these 100 vacant buildings were brought back to life in about a decade. It took a significant amount of capital, resources, time, and attention. And so, you know, we think a neighborhood like Fitzgerald is going to require a similar amount of time and attention.
I'm looking to do some revitalization that really has some meat to it. I'm sorry, but that really has some meat to it. Because what I'm seeing, I really don't know what's going on.
Holton doesn't know about the progress of the Fitzgerald rehabs, but she has doubts 100 homes will be flipped by next year.
What is it going to be? I mean, is it going to be 2020?
Yeah, I think when the neighborhood gets the resources to bring to fruition the vision that we're talking about, then we'll be able to ascertain, you know, is it 2020, is it 2021, is it 2025? But what we're really focused on is that the change that happens on a sustainable basis.
We've had that conversation a million times. It's like,
But what are we going to do?
That's why, okay, the first thing we need is a plan. So we need to put together this dream team. It's real simple. And then what's the 1 year plan? It's short term. And then what's the long term? What does this look like in 5 years?
Who has the master plan? Is it the mayor? I don't know, because the master plan is not laid out. And the one thing I don't want to do is start pointing fingers, because I need to point at myself. How can I do more? How can I help myself? And that's what I want. I want some of that money that they're putting on 7 Mile and Livernois and Midtown, downtown. I want it in the neighborhoods. And let's get busy.
And we will continue to follow Fitzgerald Project as it moves forward.